with these people.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. For those that haven't met me before, my name's Wayne Wallace and I'm the General Manager here at Port Stephens. And welcome to our candidate information session. I'll apologise up front for how we're having to conduct this, and I know we've had to reschedule it previously to this night, but this is the times we're living in with COVID, so you know, we've just got to make the best of it. The format we're doing today, we're obviously doing it on Zoom, but we're also recording this and we'll be putting it up on our website. We can provide further links so that people that may not have been able to come here tonight can at least relive this candidate's information session. It's being recorded in the council chambers at Raymond Terrace, and the date today is the 21st of July 2021. To commence, I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land on where we're meeting, which is the Warramai peoples, and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. The intent of tonight really is to outline to you as prospective candidates for the forthcoming council election to get a better understanding about local government, to get a bit more of an understanding about how Port Stephens Council operates, and to try and clarify some common questions you might have about the process and the particular, arrangements going into the election. I'll be sharing this this talk today with my colleagues. As you can see on my right here, we've got Tim Crosdale, he's our Group Manager of Corporate Services. We've got Stephen Purdy, is our Group Manager of Development Services. Got Greg, what's your name, Greg? Greg Cable, who's our Group Manager of Facilities and Services. We've got our Governance Manager, Tony Wickham. They'll all come up here and share the talking with me as we go through the session. So the background, the format we're going to go through is I'm going to talk a little bit about Port Stephens Council, the geographic area, and also about the organisation itself. Then we'll talk about some of the roles and responsibilities of being a councillor, trying to explain actually what we do and how we go about our work. And we'll end the session with a bit of a question and answer format. Now, I know we're doing it via Zoom, and to make it sort of more manageable, please ask that the questions come at the end of our presentations. Try and write down if you've got any questions along the way and send them in, or we can use the chat facility that is on the Zoom network. So without too much more ado, I will now kick off, and we're sharing a presentation on Port Stephens Council and a little bit about how we operate. Is that going to work, Tony, if I push? Maybe not. Let's turn on. Yep. Just a sec. Technicalities, we'll get there. All right. So I'm sure, as you're aware, Port Stephens Council is part of the system of government right across Australia. We're the level that is closest to the people because we are right here in the Port Stephens local government area. If there is an issue, no matter what it might be, we can certainly guarantee that people that live in Port Stephens, generally the first point of call is to ring the council offices. So when you're elected as a councillor, you become a council official or a public officer. There's a lot of requirements and obligations that go with that role, and I don't want to try and scare anyone, but there is a lot of legislation, a lot of regulation that govern the role. In particular, codes of behaviour, how decisions are made and the transparency requirements that councillors to go through to make decisions in public forums. There's certain pecuniary interest provisions that become publicly available, etc., etc. We will outline some of those further, or Mr. Wickham will outline some of those as we go through. I just want to make the point that being part of this system of government across Australia, and in particular this local area, it comes with some, fairly strong responsibilities all around governance and all around organisation leadership and how we manage what we do. Okay, I've already paid my respects to the Warramite peoples of Port Stephens Council, but I want to emphasise it again that they play a really strong role, and council works very cooperatively with the Warramite. In particular, we have an Aboriginal Strategic Committee which meets on a quite regular basis, which comprises members of both the Karua Land Council and the Warramite Land Council. It's important to understand that many things that council does, many of the activities that we undertake can either directly impact on the land, or for example, it might be our physical works, or it could be decisions that we make regarding planning approvals that can then have an important impact on the land. So as a matter of course to try and best manage that, we work closely with the Warramite peoples. We put our key staff through cultural awareness training to make sure that we are aware of how and what matters we need to take particular concern about, in particular insurance that we don't degrade those cultural significant items that abound within our community. So I just want to again emphasise that the Warramite people have been here for many thousands of years. We accept them as the traditional owners, and that we have a really good, strong working relationship with those people, which we work hard with, and I know we all appreciate the contributions that we each make. A little bit about the economy, or the beginnings of where we've come from, and I've touched on the Warramite aspect. The European settlement came into this area quite early in Australia's colonial history, and the Raymond Terrace Village Council was first created back in 1837, and local government followed very shortly thereafter with the formation of the Raymond Terrace and Dungog District Council back in the early 1840s. So local government has had a really long history here in Port Stephens, and it's amongst the earliest in Australian settlement. We've had pretty much the same size and shape of the local government area since 1937. So the consequence of that is that the system of government is very strong. The people that live in Port Stephens Council really have a sense of ownership of the council, and that really came out very strongly in recent years when there was proposals to merge Port Stephens Council with our neighbours. Community came out very strongly, and that was really when we got a sense of how valued having your own local council with your own elected members is to our community. So it has a very long and steep history of helping our community to do what they want to do. Sorry, Tony, it's not working again. I'm going to flick the button. Okay, so the economy in Port Stephens Council, I think we are again very fortunate. We have a very diversified economy. Tourism, of course, is very large down in the peninsula, but we also have other sectors that have really good employment and a lot of diversity in there, particularly around the Williamtown area with the Williamtown RAF base, Newcastle Airport, and the new Astra Aerolab development that's under construction, big employment generator. We also have in the Tomago area, some large-scale manufacturing, primarily either associated with the mining industry or defence industry. We have a lot of industry in those areas, which are big employers. And also, we have our aquaculture, oysters, fishing. That is another reasonable-sized employer, and which puts Port Stephens apart. So In terms of our economy, we are generally very stable. Some sectors might have their highs and their lows, as we're seeing with COVID, but overall, Port Stephens is a very stable place to work, place to live, which is very, very good. A little bit about the economy there. A snapshot for our local government area, again, a bit more like the Goldilocks zone. We're some 860 square kilometres in size, which puts us in terms of local government across New South Wales, somewhere in the middle. We're not, certainly not like the very large councils to the west, but we are a really solid size, which makes it good because it's a distance and an area that we can, then adequately manage. Something unique that, although we might have had people here since the early 1800s, and because of that, there's been a lot of development. People have settled in certain areas. Nearly 25% of our local government area is either a state park, a national park, or a conservation area, which means that 3/4 is developed and settled. There's a large chunk of our LGA area that we need to maintain in really good pristine conditions, and that's something that also attracts people to Port Stephens Council, is our physical natural environment. Population-wise, we're just under 75,000 and growing, again, which places us in that middle row of local government areas across New South Wales. We have a budget of over $100 million, currently $117 million, which puts us, running $100-odd million business is a big scale organisation. That's managed, with over 500 employees. Local government originally set up back in the day was generally to look after roads, drains and that sort of things to help with our early settlers. And it hasn't really changed a great deal since then. Our biggest assets are our infrastructure, and as a council we manage over $1 billion worth of those assets. When I call it assets, I'm calling roads, drains, bridges, buildings, sports fields, cemeteries, childcare centres, a whole range of different things. In this past couple of years, we've had an expanded capital program. It's not our normal capital program. Our normal capital program is around the $20 to $25 million mark. But this last year is seeing a capital program around $63 million. So very, very big, which puts a lot of pressure on us to deliver. People always want to know about debt, and our debt is currently, $18 million, which if you could compare that to our revenue and our budgets, puts it into perspective that it really is, quite a, modest figure there. A little bit of a snapshot on Port Stephens LGA. Oh, okay, so what does council do and why does council do it? Through the Local Government Act, which sets out some of council's responsibilities, probably 90% or more of the things that council delivers is discretionary. That is, it's not mandated that council must deliver it or that the council must ensure that it is provided. A lot of it is discretionary. We'll talk a bit later about some of the mandatory things that council must do, but it's only a small percentage of things. The reason we do what we do is because of what the community wants to make Port Stephens a better place. The vision of this council for, I'm thinking it's 15 to 20 years, has been to create a great lifestyle in a treasured environment. I think that's a really good vision. It really can resonate with many, many people. A great lifestyle could mean by, living near the beach or in a rural area. It could be appreciating that natural environment that draws a lot of people to Port Stephens. But it also can mean other things. It could be for some people having somewhere to live, having somewhere to work, having good facilities nearby, hospitals, police, etc., etc. And often that comes with the dichotomy of preserving the natural environment. So the council's vision about what do we want to achieve for our community, and therefore what do we actually deliver, is shaped by this vision. The council, when it's elected in its first year of its term, when it sets its own community plans, its objectives about what it wants to do, reviews the council's vision, and it really is a guiding document for the council for what it does. I'm going to stop there, Tony. I'm going to talk about in a minute. We're going to get right into the details about things. But there is really two key aspects that we're going to discuss. One is about the council and the governing body, the mayor and the councillors. And a little bit later, we're going to talk about the administration and how we deliver what the council directs that we do. And we'll touch on that very shortly. But I'm going to hand over now to our governance manager, Tony Wickham, to take us through some of the particular roles and responsibilities that you would encounter if you're elected as a councillor. So over to you, Tony.
Thanks, Wayne. As Wayne mentioned, roles and responsibilities as an elected official are very important and obviously fall under the are defined under the Local Government Act. So what we'll do in the next little while, we'll take you through some of those areas of responsibility and some of the roles that would be covered if you were to become a councillor and ultimately be performing as part of the governing body. So just to start off with, the Local Government Act, it really, I suppose, defines the roles in a number of areas. But if we start off at a more strategic level, we obviously have the role of the council, the elected council, being the governing body. We obviously, as the General Manager mentioned, we have the management arm. As you can see there on the slides, the council is responsible for community representation and advocating on behalf of the community. Strategic direction, policy making is a very important role as an elected official, as is decision making on a number of council's functions. Wayne mentioned a few moments ago about the importance of governance, and certainly that is a strong element of local government, but also all levels of government. The General Manager under the Local Government Act is responsible for the day-to-day administration of council and therefore employs all staff to carry out the functions of council on behalf of the elected body. So that encompasses obviously our people, our finances, resources, service delivery, and the staff will talk about service delivery and our business units in a few moments. We also provide advice through to senior staff and ultimately onto the elected body for any matters that come before the council. Our systems and processes are extremely important. Obviously, they enable us to do everything we do here at council, and that is all built up or wrapped up, I suppose, in a legislative framework under the Act. If we just look more closely at the governing body, the Local Government Act sets out some guiding principles for councils, and they really start, I suppose, at the guiding principles for local government, including decision making. The principles around sound financial management and integrated planning and reporting will apply also. The objectives of the principle is to provide guidance to enable councils to carry out their functions in a way that facilitates local communities that are strong, healthy and prosperous. So as we've said, the governing body is made up of 10 here at council. We've got the mayor and the 9 elected councillors. The role of the council as the governing body seeks to direct and control the affairs of council at that more strategic level. The effective civic leadership when you're carrying out your official duties. Ultimately, financial sustainability is a key to council success. Our community strategic plan and integrated planning documents. There's a raft of documents there that Wayne touched on, and certainly we'll be working with the new council to implement that. Review the performance of council. So council will receive, or does receive, a 6-monthly report and ultimately the annual report each year. The appointment of the General Manager is the key staff member that the elected body is able to appoint and obviously carry out appraisals of that role. The other key aspect in relation to staffing or this organisational structure is that the elected body will determine the senior positions in the organisation. Community consultation is certainly a key part of your role if you were to be elected. There is ongoing 7 days a week, almost. I'm sure some of our former councillors have felt that it is 24/7 community consultation. So it is a very time-consuming aspect of your role. As is obviously the last point there is very important when we certainly are required to act in an honest, efficient and appropriate manner. Coupled with that, the governing body is required to consult with the General Manager in directing and controlling the council affairs. We come back down to the next level from the governing body. Obviously, the Mayor is our leader of the council and of the local community as conducting that particular popularly elected appointment. Certainly, the Mayor is obviously part of that definition under the Local Government Act, includes community cohesion and promoting civic awareness. The spokesperson, so the official spokesperson here at Council is the Mayor. And obviously, for operational areas, it would be the General Manager. Making policy decisions or functions of Council is the governing body's role. However, the Mayor does have powers under the Act to make some policy making function decisions between council meetings. Certainly, the Mayor will preside at council meetings and ensuring they're conducted in an appropriate manner, promoting any of our plans, our programs and our policies, promoting key partnerships with some of our key stakeholders in the LGA, but also outside the LGA. And that could be at various levels of government, state and Commonwealth, but also regional groups throughout Australia. The Mayor is required to consult and work closely with the General Manager. That relationship is an important outcome of the Mayor's role, I suppose, that they have that keen and working relationship there. Civic and ceremonial functions. The Office of the Mayor does conduct a number of civic or ceremonial functions, such as our Australia Day events, but also our new citizens to Australia. There are citizenship ceremonies held throughout any given year. And again, the last one, just to wrap up on the role of the Mayor would lead the appraisals of the General Manager. Move on to the role of a councillor. The role of a councillor obviously is an active and contributing member of the governing body, making considered and well-informed decisions as a part of that governing body, certainly participating in any of our development of our community strategic plans. Again, it's about having that collective response to the citizens that you represent, whether they're residents or ratepayers in the local community. Certainly, facilitating that communication back between our council and the community is an important role of any governing body, but also each individual within that. The policy making, obviously, when we make the policies or council adopts their policies, a number of policies, which we'll go through in a moment, do relate directly to the governing body. And it is important that we all uphold and reflect those appropriately in carrying out our council duties. To make the next point talks about the obligation on elected officials to undertake ongoing professional development. So certainly we have a lot of life experiences that come with every single individual that stands as a candidate, but also we need to build on that and certainly become aware of what the issues are in the local government sector. And by doing that, to facilitate that, we can provide access to an array of conferences, seminars and learning opportunities. Finally, the council is accountable to the local community for the performance of the council. If we go over to the next slide, just to give you a little bit of, obviously as a council official, particularly in the elected realm, time commitments are something you will come to appreciate. And there are many calls on your time throughout your term of office. Currently, the current council they hold 21 meetings a year. Generally speaking, it's 2 a month, and they're all governed by the Code of Meeting Practice. Under the Local Government Act, council is only required to meet 10 times a year, and as the incoming council, you will have one of the first decisions will be to determine how frequent the council meets. It is also important to be aware of your obligations of scenarios where you could vacate your office. So as an elected official, you are required to attend the council meetings unless you have, and you must submit an apology or seek leave of absence from the council. The council will officially grant that or may take some other course of action. If you are to, there is a distinct difference between an apology and a leave of absence. If you are away from 3 or more ordinary council meetings and you have not had a leave of absence, you have automatically vacated your office as a councillor. Some of the areas that may be included on the agenda, and some of our agendas are relatively small, but others are quite large, so it does vary meeting to meeting. But some of the, if you look at the subject matter, you will be certainly considering a number of policies. I think last count we had around 70 adopted policies of council, and they're reviewed on a 3-year cycle. Development applications, certainly council has a responsibility as a consent authority, so you may be aware that there are a number of DAs that come to council over time. Financial reporting, we're obligated to report our budget for adoption to council, but ongoing there'll be reporting back to the elected body on the progress of that adopted budget throughout any given year. Council will set the direction through its integrated planning and reporting framework, as I previously mentioned. So it's really important that councillors across that document effectively what's in that framework, and those documents that fall out of that framework is what we'll be doing in the coming 12 months, but over the term of this council. And financial assistance. There's an opportunity for councillors at times to provide some financial assistance through to the community after adoption by the elected council. So holding civic office, as part of your role, you'll need to firstly take an oath of office before you can attend your first council meeting. And obviously there are a number of ethical standards under the Local Government Act, such as the Code of Conduct and the like, that you will need to be trained in. There'll be a full induction program for the new council over a number of months. And also, we certainly need to be managing any conflicts of interest at any meeting you attend, whether it be a council meeting, a committee meeting, or some informal briefing with staff or the council or the general public. You'll have legal responsibilities under various pieces of legislation, including personal responsibilities, for example, work health and safety. The elected body does have responsibilities under that particular act. Anti-discrimination, the privacy legislation, public access to information, and also record keeping and the management of your own records that you'll receive as an elected body. There are statutory obligations for all of those. In the arena of skills and experience and personal attributes that are required by the mayor or a councillor, and they include, and they're all laid out in a guideline issued by the Office of Local Government, but we'll have a summary here this evening of personal attributes, and that would include things like managing yourself, display resilience and adaptability, act with integrity, demonstrate accountability. Your relationships, be able to communicate and engage, have a community and customer focus, work across the organisation and collaboratively with all of your colleagues, influence and negotiate, which would then take us on to the results area. So you would need to be able to plan and prioritise, problem solve, create and innovate and deliver results. Finally, moving into the resource area, and you would need to certainly have an understanding, explain and respect public funds and discuss the finances of council. Understand council roles as the custodian of assets and tools of council. Use and support new technology and information. make decisions on procurement contracts according to the value for money, probity, and community benefit. Finally, civic leadership is an important attribute to hold in this particular area as well. So certainly you would need to be representing your community, inspire, direction and purpose, govern responsibly, and make quality decisions. Some of the key policies that would relate to the elected body are the Code of Conduct, the Code of Meeting Practice, our working together and provision of information policy. So to give a bit more detail on that particular document, we have a policy where the councillors and the staff interact, and there's approved staff that our councillors can interact, and the staff can make contact with our elected body. An important policy is the payment of expenses and provision of facilities to the Mayor and Councillors. And this goes into great detail to explain any type of reimbursement, ongoing professional development, and reimbursement for travel and functions and the like. In addition to that, other facilities we may provide, such as facilities in the admin building for the Mayor and Councillors. So that would be something that would be particularly important to be across. Gifts and benefits is I suppose it's joined to our Code of Conduct, that gives a little bit more detail about how we manage gifts and benefits here at Council and what disclosures need to be made in that particular arena. The Council Induction and Professional Development Policy, it is linked to the Office of Local Government's guideline in relation to ongoing professional development for our elected body. And it certainly strongly encouraged that all councillors continue on with their professional development to serve their community. And lastly, just to round up on the half a dozen or so that we have here, is the pecuniary interest returns. So on an annual basis, you will be required to make disclosures for the preceding 12 months. 3 months into your office term, you will be required to have submitted that return. And you can certainly access all of our policies online at the website. In relation to time commitment, as I alluded to earlier, there are many events and committee meetings and so forth that you will attend as a councillor. One of the first things you will do at the first council meeting will be to appoint delegates to an array of committees. And I will talk about them in a moment. So your time commitment, to give you a bit of a broad brush kind of approach, there will be an ongoing induction program. The first couple of months, maybe up to 3 months, will be pretty intense in relation to the evening induction program for councillors. There certainly will be a supplementary program for the Mayor, and the Mayor and Councillors, as I've previously said, will have an ongoing requirement to attend professional development as that arises. Currently, the council meetings are from 5:30 on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. Again, that is subject to change with the new council. Extraordinary council meetings can occur at any time in line with the Code of Conduct procedures, Code of Meeting Practice. And we have two-way conversations, 3 Tuesdays of the month, 2 of them preceding council meetings. And there are opportunities for the councillors and staff to discuss matters that are coming before council, but also activities and functions across the organisation. One of the, I suppose, largest draw on your time will be reading and reviewing the business papers prior to each meeting. Obviously, you can have a look at the past papers and minutes on our website, and there's certainly a lot of information there to review. In addition to those things, I mentioned a moment ago that the new council will be appointing delegates to a number of committees. At the moment, we have 26 355C committees. Now, they're community committees, sports council, various hall committees, and the like across the local government area. In addition to that, we have 35 external groups. So that may be a membership on various government committees, but also external parties to council where we've been invited to have representatives, such as the Marine Parks and the like. There are a number of regional workshops, meetings, conferences and seminars, the list goes on, that there'll be opportunities for councillors to attend And obviously that is quite important for Port Stephens Council to have representation at any of those events. There are an array of community events that we hold across the local government area all year. As I mentioned a moment ago, Stray Day, there are End Day parades, right through to our citizenships that happen in addition to a lot of engagement and the like that we do. Councils will receive approaches from the media in relation to items that are going on at council, and also you'll be fielding those inquiries as they come through as an individual. You'll participate in formal community engagement sessions. The council arranges that we do at times have the councillors involved in those, and certainly you would receive invitations to attend. Engagement with the community, as previously spoken about, is quite a large time resource is required for that particular activity. We move on to the next slide, just to give council or the candidates an idea of the remuneration, if you like, that comes with being a mayor or a councillor. So the amounts that you can see on the screen are the current amounts. This is reviewed annually by the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal. Port Stephens Council is categorised as a regional centre under their definition. And you can certainly see from their website, there's a report that's released around April every year, which will give you the definitions of every council in New South Wales. As I mentioned a moment ago, there was the payment of expenses policy for councillors, and that goes on to include your phone, your IT equipment, travel, conferences. So if you're travelling to and from the administration building to attend the council meeting, obviously that mileage can be claimed from council. Certainly an important aspect is an amount of, there's a monetary amount available for carer assistance, whether it be childcare or someone elderly that you're responsible for, or someone with a disability. There's certainly a clear definition there for that. Councillors will have access to, from the 1st of July next year, will have access to superannuation similar to employees. So we're waiting for the new council to come in, and the elected body can resolve to receive that or not. A mayoral vehicle is provided to the council, to the mayor for business use, and that will be there. As I mentioned, ongoing professional development. There is administrative support, so the mayor and the councillors have administrative support to assist them with their obligations as a council official. The councillors also are provided with a meeting room here in the council administration building. Mr. Ross.
Thanks for outlining that, Tony. I'm sure there will be a number of questions from prospective candidates about some of the technicalities that Tony has talked about, and unfortunately we'll have to do that when we get to the question and answer session later in the presentation. But I do want to emphasise that becoming a councillor is taking on a pretty serious role. It does demand a lot of your time, and as we've gone through, there is a lot of rules and regulations that become law on your role by virtue of being part of the system of local government. So please consider those aspects. It's very rewarding on a whole range of fronts, but you need to be aware that there are certain serious obligations that come with being in the role. I just want to talk a little bit about the actual organisation at Port Stephens Council, you know, how we organise ourselves to do what we do, and a little bit of how we've been structured. So if I just move to the next slide. Because we are a very diverse organisation, we operate some 60 different distinct businesses, very diverse. We have a very diverse set of employees with all different qualifications and backgrounds, part-time, full-time, casual. We rely on a lot of volunteers to do a lot of aspects of our role. It is a very dynamic and complex organisation. Because we all come from so many different areas, to have a common purpose for the organisation is to deliver services that are valued by our community in the best possible way. So we only want to ensure that we deliver services that are adding value to our community. We have an ongoing rolling program where we review each and every service to ensure that what we are delivering is adding value to our community. If it's not adding value, then why are we doing it? The second part of that is we want to deliver it in the best possible way. And at Port Stephens Council, we use what's known as the Australian Business Excellence Framework, which is a very, very good model for organisational excellence. We've been pursuing that for a dozen years or so. So we are, to make the most of what we do, to be as efficient as we can, we've applied this approach. So we want to ensure that not only what we are delivering is adding value to our community as told to us by our community, but we are actually delivering it in the best possible way. And that service review program has a fairly extensive benchmarking program to ensure that what we do deliver is cost effective and having at the right quality. So as an organisation, why we come to work, why we come to do those sort of things is to deliver services that are valued by our community in the best possible way. That's what we do. So I'll tick over there. So while we might be 60 different business units with diversity and complexity to what we do, we've tried to keep our business operating model as simple as we can. That is, so if you work in a particular area, you understand why you come to work and why you do and what, why it's being structured in that particular way. So the group managers are going to talk in a little minute about some of the more specific things, but in general, we have a 4-tier approach. We have the General Manager's Office, which myself, our Governance Manager, Tony, and other staff are in. And our key role really is just to keep the organisation as online as it can be with all the different areas that we do. Primarily, we take a large role around the governance to making sure that we are doing what we are required to do it in the right way through those various laws and regulations that we're obliged to. We also have a primary focus on making sure that our elected members can deliver their role as effectively as they can. And I know everyone is a little bit different and everyone may have certain requirements and bring different skill sets, but our role is to try and assist. So we provide strategic leadership right across the organisation and a heavy focus on the governance aspect. We have our corporate services group, which Tim Crosdale is the group manager. And its role really is to deliver services to the organisation itself. So instead of everyone trying to do everything, like, having to recruit people and look after the budgets, and everyone going and buying their own computers and all those sort of things, we have it centralised in the corporate services group where they deliver the services to enable the rest of the organisation to go about their business in an effective way. So we call that internal service provision. That's providing services internally within our organisation. Next here is our development services group. That's led by Stephen Pert. We'll speak in a minute. They're a bit like the umpire in the middle, I like to say, is that their role is to enable balanced development, but they also manage the compliance and the approval processes, as well as a number of other functions. So they're having a role to say yay, nay, stop, go, in a very simplistic manner. The final group there is facility services, led by Greg Cable, and they are our external facing business unit that delivers on the ground services, whether that be maintaining roads, building new roads, running childcare, running cemeteries. External facing directly to the community is where the majority of all those services are delivered from. So we call that our external service delivery team. A very basic model, but it's been in place for a number of years now. I think when people work at Port Stephens and you tell them this and how it works, they get a feel for, I know what I'm doing and I know why I'm there, which is really important, providing clarity and purpose for our teams. Okay. Because we are part of a government, we have a hierarchical structure in place so that we can ensure that we are delivering, in accordance with the governance and the operational responsibilities. I'll get the group managers, they'll talk specifically about that, but we have those 3 groups plus the general managers area, and within each of those groups, they have their own various teams that deliver particular services. So the next one is the executive, and these are the senior, with myself, we are the senior managers that direct and facilitate, provide the strategic leadership right across our organisation. So it's very important that we are on the same page, which we meet regularly to ensure that we do. When issues come up, we try to have a consistent approach to how we deal with things, even though some of the functions are very different. We've got to have a very aligned leadership approach, which we do here at Port Stephens Council. And they're the heads of the different teams. I'm going to hand over to those guys to talk about some of the more specifics, only at a higher level conversation, just so you can get a feel if you're elected as a councillor on where and why and what we do, the things that we do. So first, Tim Crosdale.
Thanks, Wayne. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Wayne said, I'm Tim Crosdale. I'm the Group Manager of Corporate Services here at Port Stephens Council. What I want to do is just take a couple of minutes just to run through the core purpose and functions that exist within the Corporate Services Group, just to familiarise yourself with the day-to-day activities that we undertake on behalf of Council. So, as Wayne has mentioned, the overall purpose of the Corporate Services Group is to provide internal services and resources to the organisation. A lot of that is through centralised functions, as mentioned, and we've got that arranged through a number of functions. They include our corporate reporting team, so they coordinate, develop, monitor and report on our integrated planning and reporting framework. Tony had mentioned that previously, that exists within the legislation. That looks like our community strategic plan, which we will work with the incoming council on developing, as well as our delivery program and our operational plan, our annual operational plan. Flip side to that is that we also coordinate the formal reporting of that, which includes our 6 monthly progress reports, our annual reporting and our end of term reports. Within the group is also our strategic property team, and they're charged with managing council's property investment and development projects. We manage those in order to provide a non-rate revenue stream to council, and it involves a whole range of different functions related to investments, facilities management, and ultimately some development work that we'll undertake across the LGA. Organisational support is our internal service provider around people, all things to do with people, data and systems, ICT, how we manage our data digitally, our records management, as well as business excellence and workforce development across the organisation. Financial services manage all of council's financial obligations, financial management obligations, including revenue, expenditure, all of our reporting requirements. They coordinate our external audit process that we go through annually, and also we have a centralised acquisitions or purchasing team that operates on behalf of council. Finally, within the group, we also have our holiday park section, and they manage council's beachside holiday park. So that's 5 holiday park businesses that we have within the LGA, including the recently opened Port Stephens Koala Sanctuary. And these businesses are managed to, again, provide a non-rate revenue source to council that we can then use on to fund the various infrastructure works, obviously improvements to the holiday parks themselves, and also to support the significant tourism industry in Port Stephens. I will hand over to, I think Steve might be next. Oh, sorry, Greg. Greg's next to talk about facilities and services. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Tim. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Wayne said earlier, I'm Greg Cable. I'm the Group Manager of Facilities and Services. And in keeping with the Group Manager's approach, we have a fairly simple structure underneath Facilities and Services. 4 sections: assets, which have work teams involved in engineering services; civil assets, civil projects; community and recreation and asset systems. We have capital works that look after survey and design; project manager construction; public domain, who look after roadside and drainage, roads, parks, building trades and mechanical maintenance. And we also have community services, who look after waste, volunteers, children's services, emergency management, libraries, and contracts and services. We have for many years explained our existence as a group on a value chain, and a very simple value chain, in that our asset section go through and identify, prioritise and seek funding for the infrastructure that we need across council. Our capital works team then design and build that infrastructure. Our public domain team maintains that infrastructure, and our community services team puts people into the infrastructure or provides services based on that infrastructure to the community. So a fairly simple value stream. It's a fairly simple structure that we've got that delivers assets and infrastructure right across council. Thank you. Steve, Bert.
Thanks, Greg. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen Pert's my name. I'm the Group Manager for Development Services. The Development Services Group is an arm of council that deals a lot with land use planning, primarily land use planning and communications. We are organised within 3 distinct sections: development assessment and compliance, strategy and environment, and communications. Within the development assessment and compliance section, we deal daily with a whole range of activities, primarily based on New South Wales legislation, the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. We have ranger services within that section, environmental health services that focuses on food shop and on-site sewage system inspections, development assessment, so determining DAs, building assessment, and development compliance, so ensuring that people comply with the relevant parts of the legislation and the DAs that they're issued with. Just for a fun fact, over the last 6 months, the DA team have determined about 550 DAs. Within the strategy and environment section, we look at long-term land use planning and develop controls that the DA team can draw upon as they're going through their assessment process. So within the strategy and environment section, we have a strategic land use planning team, natural resources, so our environmental education, vegetation management, weed and pest management areas, and economic development and tourism. Over the last 12 months, the team's been involved in developing a new strategic planning framework, working through a new coastal management program, and a range of tools in the investment prospectus and concierge areas. From a communications section, a really important part of what we do, and certainly what the new elected representatives would be exposed to. We have 3 business units in that area: public relations and marketing. They work a lot in the emergency response and media management space. Customer relations, so our front office, the front face of council. Over the last 6 months, they've taken around 28,000 calls. And our community development and engagement teams, really important part of being transparent, engaging and collaborating with the people in our community around the projects that we are delivering each day. A really great section and some really good services that are offered there. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I'll just conclude with a few other specific aspects about the organisation and how it all fits together. So to try and keep it as simple as we can, we have how we do and what we do and why we do it all on one page. Yes, it's a big piece of paper, but it sort of sets out exactly how we go about doing things, from taking the community's vision, the things that the community would like to see built, constructed, the services delivered, whether that be by council or by other federal or state government agencies. We take that, we then operationalise that, we turn into an operational plan, which is, if we're here for a 3 or 4 year term, we say, what are we going to do year 1, what are we going to do year 2, what are we going to go year 3, we're going to go year 4. We apply our business practice approach. Our values and behaviours is very important as an organisation, because it's all about our relationships with ourselves and with our community and with our other key stakeholders. And we also apply our business methodology, our Australian Business Excellence approach to continuously improving our services. From that, we undertake a number of specific projects that's been set out, and we finish it off by a review process where every year we need to go back and reassess what we're doing and how we're doing it, so that with the community to make sure that we're keeping on the same track. We use our service review program in one regard, and we do our annual review of our community plans on the other. In a real quick snapshot, that's how what we do with how we're delivering it sort of fits together. I'm happy to take many questions on this later if there's interest on that. So I move on again. We've spoken a little bit about the integrated planning model that is in place here in New South Wales. I know from my perspective, I've worked in local government for over 40 years in Victoria, Queensland, and now New South Wales. This integrated model is a really good way of ensuring that we take the views of the community in what we deliver, what council will deliver, what council will advocate to other government agencies or the state or federal levels for those services that the community wants to see done. This is a very dynamic process when the new council is elected, as it might have already been indicated by Tony and Tim, that the first thing the council needs to do is to go out amongst the community and ascertain what does the community want to see done to make their life in Port Stephens for the better. And often it's we want better public transport, or we want better health services, or we want better policing, or we want to do a whole range of things that may not be council's role. That's where we advocate for, but there is a lot of things that we have a direct touch with our community on. For example, the state of our local road network, which has been severely impacted, of course, by the storm event in March and the ongoing continual rain. So we get the views back from the community in that to develop what is called the community strategic plan. Then council takes what it will do over its term, and this next term will be for 3 years. So what are we actually going to bite off and deliver over those 3 years? And there's a process around council deciding that. And then we operationalise it with our operational plan. What are we going to do year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4? How are we going to afford it? We have to prepare what's called a resourcing strategy, which includes primarily, making sure we've got the money to finance. We've got a 10-year financial plan. We need to make sure that we have the right workforce to deliver those services. So we have to have a workforce plan. And then most importantly for local government, where we look after $1 billion worth of infrastructure assets, we have to have a strategic asset management plan to see how we can maintain those services and facilities that we do. And this all comes together into these integrated plans. And then, of course, as Tim has said, we need to report back to our community on the delivery of what we said we were going to do. And we're required to provide 6 monthly reports back to our community against these key targets and activities that we said we would do according to our operational plans and our community strategic plan. And that's a big cycle. Every year that needs to be reviewed, and every year we need to produce a final annual report that goes out to the community on our finances and all our activities. So it is a very, very comprehensive and a very sophisticated process, and I think a really solid one to keep the organisation and the elected council honest with its community, because there's nothing to hide there. It all comes out in those reports, and they're all audited. Pretty good process. But you'll certainly learn a lot more about that. Now, a big focus on local government, and this was the catalyst for the mergings or proposed mergers of local government councils previously, was about the being fit for the future. So in terms of the government, they reviewed and said, well, are the councils sustainable in their own right to actually deliver and maintain the assets and services that they have? Or, could a better, bigger council do more, or a smaller council perhaps? The key indicators there were, did you have the financial capacity to deliver what the community wants to see delivered? Are you of a certain size? So do you have the scale and capacity to deliver on an efficient basis those services and infrastructure? How are you managing your assets? Are you managing your assets, or are they deteriorating and there's no plan in place to actually maintain the assets to a workable condition? And of course, the final factor, which is not the least important, probably one of the most important, is council meeting its obligations in terms of all the various legislation, regulations and the governance requirements that is placed on us in our role as part of the level of government. So that's called the Fit for the Future program. that still applies to us. We need to be very mindful of those sort of things in the decisions that we make. When we go out to our community, we will have many requests, and we know there's many things that the community would love to see done. But when you put it into the context of affordability, of rate revenues, of the potential grants, fees and charges that's affordable, it really pairs things back. And that's where the tough decisions have to get made by the elected council about where do we put these resources. While we might have a budget of over $100 million, which sounds a real lot, we are so finely balanced in delivering what we can do with that amount versus what the community wants. It is a constant, ongoing challenge. So as a new councillor, certainly you'll be faced with these issues around affordability, the rating structures, and our overall finances balanced against what's best for our community and what we put our focus into. So again, we have to report about how we are going as an organisation, as a council, and because we have a very diverse workforce, very diverse services, we've come up with 7 key metrics that apply right across our organisation. We measure these every year and report on these every year. The first one is community satisfaction. What does the actual community think about the services that council delivers on their behalf? So we do this annually, and we measure the results that we get. We measure the feedback that we get in about this is good or that's bad, or we should do this or we should do that. We analyse that, and that helps influence what we do in the following year of service. But community satisfaction is a really key metric. Likewise is our employee engagement. We measure the engagement of our employees. We know from all research that satisfied, happy staff with the right equipment, the right leadership certainly outperform and are more efficient than councils where that's not in place. So we do measure our employee engagement. It's a very important measure that we do. Then we have another of other measures. Of course, we measure our financial result. I say several years back, our financial position was not so good as it is today, and as a consequence, we couldn't maintain our facilities very well. We had a lot of dissatisfaction in terms of the community and our staff. Once we had that put back on track primarily through our service review program, asking the community what they really value, we managed to get ourselves on track, and we have a lot better results. So financial management, we budget for a 1% underlying surplus. We always budget for a surplus. 1% in $100 million might sound a lot. It's not. You try to manage your own household budget to within 1%. Very tough, particularly in the sphere that we work in. We face natural disasters all the time, which damage our road network, which are very expensive items, etc. So financial management is another key metric that we report on, and I know it gets a lot of interest from our community. The next one is delivery on our integrated plans. Are we actually doing what we say we will? And I've already elaborated on that, but so we measure the achievement we have on that, and we generally have a very high achievement because of our structures in place. Risk, health and safety, the risk to the public, risk to the safety of the public, the safety of our employees, again, is a very important metric that we monitor right across our organisation and report against. Governance, again, talking about, how are we meeting our governance obligations? Are we following the right things? Are we doing the right rules? How many breaches may we have? Very strict measurement around that and reporting on that. And finally, but certainly not least, is all about our infrastructure. We measure here what's called an infrastructure backlog. That might be infrastructure that has been passed by its useful life and may not be fit for purpose anymore. We've been working very hard to try and reduce that infrastructure backlog, but unfortunately, we still do have quite a number of $1 billion in an infrastructure backlog, which is where it comes back to that revenue question. So how we're going, we measure it against those metrics. Now, you're joining council. I've been working in local government, I said, for 40 years. I nearly say this every year that, well, this is a challenging period. It really certainly is. We're in the midst. We've been through and we're going through again about a government reform agenda. Always seems to be that it's local government that's being tried to be reformed. We have very high level of expectation within our community and our different localities. It's certainly that's something we can only expect to keep growing about services that we do deliver and the quality of those services and the costs that we deliver them. Being in local government, being a local that you are under the eye of everyone, you face high scrutiny, the good, the bad, the indifferent. We will be told all about it, particularly now with social media so prevalent in our communities. So we get a lot of feedback on those things, and often they don't sort of attract the type of people that are really willing to tell you how things should be done better, if I'm saying that politely. A technological revolution, the way we deliver our services is really, really changing quickly. A few years ago, we wouldn't have even probably known about drones and, equipment that can be operated without any staff intervention, a whole range of robotics and things that are all becoming part of our workforce. So changing that with our aged population, which reflects on our aged workforce, is a big challenge to work with, but also one for potential, better efficiencies and delivery, which saves the bottom line. Worldwide, there's a skilled global shortage on skilled workers, and we're no different here because we have very many different fields of expertise. We're often struggling, and often in the local governments in the hunt, which there's 10 of, we're often competing with each other for the best of staff. I like to think we've done really, really well here at Port Stephens Council, but it is always a constant challenge. Spoken already a bit about our rate caps and our financial implications, and certainly, as a newly elected council, I can be sure that the issue of a rate rise will be something that will be talked about because it impacts on what services can be delivered. Anyway, that won't be for me to decide on that. And there's always a mandate to do more with less, and that's been a constant for many, many years, but it's nonetheless challenging. But the good thing is that the way the organisation has pulled together, the way we operate, the efficiencies that we have put, we're in a really good place. Certainly many, many challenges. I know there's certainly many, many things we could probably do better, more efficiently, more effectively, but we are in a really good place to meet those challenges that I've outlined, and probably many others that you will face over your term as elected councillor. So I'm now going to hand over to Tony just to get very specific here about some of the electoral milestones we haven't talked you out of running for council. So you can talk to, and then I'll conclude, and then we'll have a Q&A session. I'll hand over to you, Tony.
Thanks, Wayne. Just so the candidates are clear, council has decided that we would have the New South Wales Electoral Commission facilitate and run the election for us, the 2020 local government election. And to do that, obviously, there are a number of key dates that are quite important. We have on the screen for you some of the key dates to hit, but obviously there is more information on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website in relation to key dates. Certainly starting from next Monday, we will see the candidates' nomination open and the close of the rolls, including the non-residents and ratepayer roll. You will, on that particular day as well, you'll see the election office open here in Raymond Terrace, and you'll have access to the returning officer. On the 27th, postal vote applications will open, followed by the 4th of August, we will see close of candidate nominations at 12 p.m. or 12 noon, and registration of electoral material will also open on that particular day. The following day, on the 5th of August, we'll have the returning officer will conduct the ballot draw, and then following on from that, later in the month, on the 23rd of August, we'll have pre-poll and I-vote applications will open as well. The 27th of August, registration and of electoral material will close at 5 p.m. So you'll have those times from the 4th to the 27th of August to conduct that business with the returning officer. On the 30th of August, we'll see postal vote applications close at 5 p.m. and obviously pre-poll will close on the 3rd of September, the day prior, Friday the 3rd of September, prior to election day on the 4th of September. Election day, I'm pretty sure most people would be aware, but election day runs from 8 a.m. To 6 p.m. At the polling booths that will be provided on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. Only over the last week or so, a number of the dates have changed post the election, and they've been through Parliament, and the Commission have released those dates. And as I said, they are included on their website. They include the dates being pushed out for the return of completed postal vote certificates. Normally that would happen immediately after the election on Monday. It's been pushed out somewhat. And also the distribution and the declaration of results has been pushed out to the dates between the 21st and the 23rd of September. That's a little different in as to past years. A number of these changes have been a result of how the elections will be conducted due to COVID. So you can appreciate why some of these dates are being pushed out, and opportunities, I'm sure pre-poll, but also postal votes will see an increase in this election. Just some key locations that will be across the local government area. I mentioned the election office will open next week, pretty much directly or diagonally across from the police station in William Street, so 42 William Street, Raymond Terrace. And that venue will also double up as the pre-poll place or location for Raymond Terrace. In the Nelson Bay area, we'll have a pre-poll location as well, and that'll be at the Catholic Church Hall. The next couple of slides are really have been provided to us from the New South Wales Electoral Commission to provide to candidates if we were holding such an event that we are this evening. I apologise for the number of characters on the screens, but it was important to convey exactly what the Commission have provided to us. So as I've mentioned, the key dates are on their website. Certainly how candidates can nominate. Again, there is a wealth of information on their website, but certainly make sure that you check those key dates. Those applications have been open online, so nomination, while I've said nomination opens soon, that's the in-person nominations with the returning officer, but online nominations and their management system has been around since the 28th of June. So your nominations and deposits must be lodged between the 26th of July and 12 noon on the 4th of August. And be very clear that late nominations will not be accepted by the returning officer. It's important that candidates, it's important candidates' responsibility to ensure that the full and the correct completed nomination form and the relevant nomination deposit is received by close of business. So I'd probably encourage people not to leave it till 10 minutes prior to close of nomination, just in case there is an issue found with your nomination papers. We go on to the next slide in relation to expenditure and political donations. Again, visit the Commission's website and you will certainly see the full disclosure of information that's required there. It's quite a lengthy process to go through, and I won't go through the total slide on screen. I'll leave you to read that at a later date. In relation to the next slide, it's really just a bit of a help sheet as to where you can go to find additional information, speak to someone if you're not clear on something, and obviously there's a number of avenues there, being telephone on their hotline of 1300 022 011, or through the email system, or as I said earlier, the Commission's website. The Commission have had a candidate's handbook available since late April, so I'd encourage people, if you haven't already done so, to download that and have a look at that resource. The last slide before I hand back to Wayne for us to take questions is really just further information. You can certainly go to our website. We've got an electoral information page on the Port Stephens Council site. The Office of Local Government have a lot of information there about becoming a councillor, being a councillor, time commitment and so forth. There is a handbook there for councillors that I would encourage people to read. It is quite lengthy, but it does give you a complete understanding of what the role of the councillor is. The Commission's website, obviously the electoral funding and disclosures information is available on their website as well. I would encourage people to have a look at the Australian Local Government Women's Association website as well. And certainly we're advocating that, we're looking to increase participation, not only from the female population, but also from the youth as well. And another handy resource is certainly the Local Government New South Wales website. Thank you, Wayne.
All right, thanks again, Tony. Now this is going to be the delicate part of the use of the technologies. Any questions that you may have, we'll take either through our chat line or we'll turn on the system so that you can talk directly to us, and we'll do our best to either provide a response or to direct you where you'll be able to find the information. While Tony's sorting that through, again, I just want to emphasise that being a councillor is a very rewarding role, but it is very challenging, and there's a lot of obligations, as we've probably outlined, but we've only really skimmed the surface. If you're elected, we do have a very detailed induction process to bring you up to speed with the nitty-gritty of what council does, all the various issues that are going on right across our different communities with different agencies and all sorts of other things, to get look and feel with some of the services that Port Stephens Council delivers to its community. So it is a very detailed induction process, which will take some time to get through. It will certainly hopefully put you in a better mode for when you are in the council chamber having to make any decisions there. We also have a pretty good professional development program for councillors. It's really important that councillors keep up-to-date contemporary knowledge about things, because the legislation is constantly changing, and put through Local Government New South Wales, which is the organisation that helps elect members and helps to lobby to the state and federal. They offer a lot of great programs. We also know that people who have done the Australian Institute of Company Directors course get a lot of benefit, particularly around governance, particularly around finance and risk management aspects. It's a highly recommended program, and I know a number of our existing councillors have been through that and found of great benefit in terms of their role as a council member. So we go on there, Tony. We almost got to. Have you got any questions from any members of the audience? It's either silence or it's not working.
No, there's nothing in the chat.
Nothing in the chat.
So
all right. Well, I won't prolong things, but if you do come up with things, if you find that you want to know a bit more about this or that, other than the context that Tony has put up there about some specific things, we're available to help. And I know Tony is, offers a lot of good help and good advice around the governance areas and some of the technicalities about that. And of course, myself and the other group managers are readily available to try and outline and clarify to any prospective candidates about how Port Stephens operates and why we do the things we do, and obviously willing to take suggestions and opportunities to improve how we go about our business. So again, I'll apologise that we've had to do it in this format. It's much better, I know, when we're in the one room and we can interact more positively and get some feedback going. But unfortunately, this is the world we're living in at the moment. The process is challenging. And the circumstances are, not ideal, but hopefully that what we've outlined today is of some benefit to help you make your decision about running for council and some of the obligations that you have. So on behalf of our team here, I'll say thank you. This will be put up on our website, this recording. And if you listen to this as a recorded thing and you still have some questions or whatever, please feel free to contact the council. So thank you very much.